Robbie Williams Rewind.
Forget the passing train. We are naked, unafraid. Just sway.
Welcome to Robbie Williams Rewind. We are the champions. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lucy.
And along with help from special guest fans, we take you on an in-depth rewind through the solo career of multi-award winning singer, songwriter and entertainer Robbie Williams.
Today we are delighted to welcome Robbie's Australian friends, co-writers and Lufthaus bandmates Tim Metcalfe and Flynn Francis.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Great to be here.
Hey guys.
Thanks for coming on.
So if you've seen Rob on tour in the past year, it's likely that you saw Tim and Flynn support him as Lufthaus, playing the EDM songs they've written with Rob. Prior to Lufthaus, Tim and Flynn wrote the Take the Crown album with Rob, lots of under-the-radar tracks, plus many more songs on The Christmas Present.
Yeah, and honestly, some of our all-time favourite Robbie songs were written with you both, like Gospel, Raver, Into the Silence, Heavy Entertainment Show, Be a Boy, Motherfucker. The list goes on.
Yeah.
We're absolutely thrilled to have you.
Yeah, we love our fans, you know.
But no, we're not just saying that. Honestly, you
Honestly.
know, we really do love those tracks. We'll talk about some times when we heard them actually as we go through the interview. But yeah, we're thrilled to have you on the show. So thank you. So in typical rewind fashion, let's rewind back to the beginning.
So I believe you met at school. How old were you?
Flynn and I, we were 12, Flynn? 12, 13, year 7?
Yeah.
First year of high
12.
school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, wow. It really is taking us back. I didn't know we were going this far. Deep cut.
5 years ago.
It's all right. It's not therapy. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, Tim and I,
yeah,
Tim and I met in the music school. Actually, we did, didn't we, Tim?
we
We met in the
but we
music
didn't do
school.
music, right?
No, we did. We didn't, but we met in the music school, and we quickly struck up a friendship and became really good friends straight away. And then we obviously continued our friendship, and then we formed this musical bond, and we've been working together for a really long time. So
Yeah, we played a lot of bands together and stuff, like through the later teenage years.
early 20s.
And then, early 20s. Yeah.
Can you remember any of your band names?
We had a
Undercolours.
I knew Undercolours. Any
Music
others?
Leon. No, we had, Undercolours was the name of the group that we were playing together in. And that, we kind of played a lot of that music to Rob. I mean, I'm skipping ahead here. Sorry because we had, as Tim said, we were playing live as a band, and then we had a lot of material, a lot of songs that Rob really liked too. So, and some of those songs are still kicking around today, and some of those songs are also to be released at a certain point.
Uh-huh.
Excellent.
Cool.
So what were your musical influences growing up? Did you have like the same music?
Not really growing up, did we, Flynn?
No.
Our we like the same stuff now.
Yeah.
I was kind of I was really into like Blink-182, like the pop punk emo, like rock, you know, that kind of stuff. And Flynn,
I liked a lot of classic rock.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and then Tim and I did U2, Fleetwood Mac, but Tim and I did. We always used to see bands that would come to town, like the Killers, the Arctic Monkeys, the Strokes, Kings of Leon, like a lot of those bands that were happening and having a moment. When we were younger, we would always go together to these shows. And then a lot of Australian bands like Silverchair, Grinspoon. Who else was there, Tim? There's pretty fertile Australian music at that time too, right?
Pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah.
28 Days.
Yeah.
There was a lot of Australian bands that were having a big moment, but it was more rock. It was more like rock music, right?
Right.
We grew up on rock music. We grew up on guitar music. We grew up playing guitar, and then writing, band tracks, and that was our jam. So yeah, for me, it was like the classic stuff. Tim obviously loved the pop punk stuff, but then we'd go and see those bands, Foo Fighters, who were having the big moments. We were teenagers or in our early 20s when these bands were having their
Oasis, Chili Peppers, we saw it
Oasis,
all.
Yeah.
Peppers. Yeah.
In fact, we used to line up, like sometimes, I know we see a lot of people lining up for Robbie shows, and when we like walk in and we're just, but we used to do that for you too when we were like 15, 16, like so
So you get it.
we spent we were really into it. We loved it.
So you've been at the Barrier, have you?
I don't know
if we ever got to the Barrier.
This is the first time I think we've said this, but I think we actually lined up for the Close Encounters tour.
Oh.
I think we lined up for that one.
We did actually. What year would that have been?
2006.
Yeah.
See, we would have been like 18.
Right.
10. 10.
You were 10, yeah.
I was 10, Tim was 18.
No free tickets back then.
Yeah.
No guest list, Flynn.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you guys understand the craziness of queuing, though. That's brilliant.
Oh, no, make no mistake, we haven't queued for anything for a very long time.
No,
I appreciate
that.
Like this is when we were young children.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we don't do that anymore.
Always on the guest list, right?
Yeah.
Did your families encourage you when you were developing your musical career in the early days, or were they not sure? How did that go?
Oh, I think our families were very encouraging. We're very
Yeah.
lucky. Yeah, very, very supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah. From like driving us, my dad and Tim's dad like definitely would driving us to shows, picking up gear, like buying us instruments. We're very lucky to have supportive.
Yeah, I used to drive across the city every Sunday to have band practice when I was from probably 12 to 17.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
they were very encouraging.
Oh, that's good.
Great. And you went to LA to get your first break rather than staying in Australia. What made you decide to try over there over anywhere else, like London or staying there?
At that point, like in our early 20s, we kind of started focusing on writing pop music as well as doing our band and all that other stuff. But that industry was kind of there, and it was kind of the epicenter of the pop music industry and the music industry. And so we were like, we got to be there if we want to make something happen. And it was just by coincidence that Rob lived in LA. It was there was no, but that's what kind of got us there in the first place, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you managed to get work experience in some studios or something?
Yeah, we did a couple of internships. I did a couple of internships like in the Valley. I think Flynn, you did one as well, right? We were trying to pay our dues for sure. Meet whoever we could, just do the classic, thing.
Yeah.
So making the connections, meeting the right people, right place, right time.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, trying to. Our first job was Robbie, so.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So then while you were there, you were obviously playing as Undercolours, and then somehow you met Dylan, Rob's brother-in-law. So how did that come about? Was it literally just in a bar?
Flynn?
Well, this is going back. We actually, I don't want to get like, because it's a long story.
It's a cloudy time.
We met a great bunch of people, these great Americans, some who we're still friends with, like Lindsay and Jane, on New Year's Day. And then they introduced us to a friend who in turn introduced us to Dylan. who
Right.
went to college with Dylan at Boulder. And at the time, I actually hadn't met Dylan. Tim had met Dylan and his friend Dave on one of the Los Angeles trips. And then I remember Tim telling me he'd returned back to Melbourne because we were kind of at the time going on and off between Melbourne and LA. He'd met these great guys. And then we struck up a friendship with Dylan and Dave. And then Dylan, obviously mentioned that his brother-in-law is Robbie.
Hmm.
And then Dylan had a band called The Connects, which was like a rap group.
Yeah.
And then he kind of encouraged Tim and myself to make a song for The Connects. And then Dylan ended up playing the song that we made very off the cuff to Robbie. And then we met Robbie on email first, actually. And this is kind of the definitive story. We met him on email, and then he started to sing over two tracks that Tim and I did. One was, I think, the early bones of Raver, I believe. And
Yeah.
then one
You're
was
right.
I'm Not Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
wow, you're much better at this than I am.
archivist. And then
It's a memory test.
Tim and I said, I know Chris Briggs had a version, right?
He did, yeah.
There's a lot of truth in that.
Yes,
that
he did.
That
We'd love to hear your side, actually,
Yeah.
Flynn.
That happened. That was kind of like mixed in with what really happened, right?
Okay.
Then Tim and I went back to Los Angeles, and we meant to go to meet Robbie for the first time, and we knocked at the door, and his security guard opened the door, and then we went in, we met Rob, and then we went up to his studio and we began playing music. And then I think he invited us pretty quickly thereafter to like stay with him for a bit. And then we had this really, really fertile time where we wrote the majority of Take the Crown, and we were just playing music and hanging. And this is before, I mean, he was married, obviously, but this is before he'd had his family and such.
Yeah.
And we were just, hanging out and by the pool and, cooking and eating and having a really, really good time. So we all got together with massive energy in the studio. And I think we recorded the majority of Take the Crown in about 8 to 11 days. And then there were subsequent trips after that to finish off that record.
Right.
Then from that moment, we would constantly travel, spend time with Rob where he was, and that began the story of us working with him and then working with him across all those different albums over the better part of a decade.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's just about everything, Ben.
Yeah. That just wraps it up.
Yeah.
One body, one mind, into the grief we are resigned. I hold the line.
We were all like, it was all obviously like for us to then go on and create Lufthaus. Like from the instant there was a special connection between the
Yeah.
two of us that obviously has been maintained throughout the years. It's definitely a creative connection, but then there's also the personal connection. Like we obviously all get on very personally.
Yeah.
So like, and Rob has had the opportunity throughout his life. He's worked with amazing people, but I think the biggest thing for Rob is to connect and get on personally with the people he's collaborating with. I think he will see that as the biggest indicator of whether he wants to write with someone or whether he wants to continue to write. Is his personal connection. I think he wants to have fun and get on with the people
Yeah.
he's working with, because he can go and work with all the top songwriters or all top artists for collaboration, but I think he's drawn to personalities more so than if they've written 10 US number ones, or if he's more drawn to the individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've certainly noticed that with the people
Yeah.
that we've spoken to through his career.
And that's
And-
what Chris Briggs said as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That connection is really important.
Yeah.
And so At the time when you were first working with Rob, how did it feel that Rob scrapped an album with Gary Barlow to write the and release "Take the Crown" with you?
Who told you that?
Oh, that's
Who said that?
It's common knowledge.
it is common
isn't it?
knowledge, but
Yeah.
yeah,
was
Steve.
that off Flynn's Twitter account from 2010?
We're not saying it's your fault. We're just saying, how did you feel?
No. Yeah, I think there was obviously a couple of songs that were still on the record. Most, obviously Candy was a huge hit for Rob.
And different.
I mean, we were just like in the moment, like it was our first like job as doing this, and it was the first time that we were like, could actually be a career, like we were doing music, but it's like a dream, and then this was like the first thing that made it real. So we were young, and we were like, we didn't get caught up in it all, but it all just like it all happened very quickly,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think,
so we didn't really give it too much thought.
yeah,
No.
the bit wasn't that he scrapped a record with Gary. The bit was that he was doing a record with us. Like it was more about that we were excited to be crafting these songs. And Rob and Gary have had a beautiful creative partnership, and they have this enormous history together.
Yeah.
And I think Gary pops up in Rob's life and will continue to pop up. Whether that's collaboration, whether that's a Take That, anything to do with the Take That kind of legacy. But for us, it was just more that like we were excited and passionate about what we were creating. We were happy to be doing it with Rob as a trio, and it felt very natural, and that excitement overrode any sort of comparison to alternative material that had come before,
Right. Yeah.
And it sounds as though you were very in the moment if you recorded that in, what did you say, 8 days?
Yeah.
Wow.
We did like a ridiculous amount. I remember on the first day, so we had kind of gone, Rob had been emailing us, and then he was like, come over to my place very casually, thinking that we lived in LA. And we were like, all right, we need to get flights to LA, and we need to get like as soon as possible. So Flynn and I kind of, we asked our parents if they could help us get a flight to Los Angeles, and we were staying, on friends' couches, and we just made as much music as we could. And I think after that first day, we kind of played him a bunch of band songs and a bunch of stuff. And he was like, what are you guys up to tomorrow? Like, are you guys free to work tomorrow and stuff? And we're just like, yeah, we're free. And I think in the first 2 or 3 days, we had done some ridiculous amount of songs. Like it was kind of like 3 a day, just like bang, bang, bang. And it was like 8 days or something. The majority of the album was written, so it all happened very quickly.
And did you already have some ideas developed that you took in, or did some of that just come from scratch out of the moment? Or?
It was a bit of both. A bit of both. Like we had, and like Flynn said, some of the songs are still yet to come out. Like we had some ideas. A lot of the stuff we did on the spot, like it was.
You guys will love this. I think like at the time, these songs like Greenlight and Raver. Greenlight's a song I really like.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I think that's a really great song. These were all part of the collection for the album, and then for whatever reason, things don't go on, or there's other songs that come up. But all of those sessions, those songs were born out of. But we'd often have like a musical idea, like it might be music, might be a hook, or we pick up a guitar and make something. But it was all very fruitful and all very easy, and it always has been. I think with Rob, we always get something. We always get something. So it's just about where it falls in kind of line with the other tracks, or whether it's where you come in on the kind of writing cycle, what ends up landing. And then there are some songs that that we haven't put out yet that could be on the album, or there are songs that are on the under the radar that you may have in retrospect gone, we should have included that in Take the Crown or the Heavy Entertainment Show. But it's all about just catching a great track, and I mean, you guys, you get to experience it too, because you're avid, fans of the music.
Yeah.
But, no, it's a good time. It was a really good time for all of us.
So was there a song that was the easiest to write, or were they just all
They're all
easy? Yeah.
So we believe it was Take the Crown's producer, Jackknife Lee, who suggested the bridge of Raver could be turned into a full song, which became shit on the radio. Which did you prefer at the time, and which do you like best now?
I prefer Raver.
Yeah.
I think Raver's a better track, in my opinion. I think Shit on the Radio is a good song. I think Raver's a better track for my personal taste.
Tim,
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So would we.
Yeah. I can't remember Raver, the recorded version, but was it under the radar? Yeah. Yeah, I think Raver. That's a big up and good feel good song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And, maybe the start of Lufthaus, you know, reminiscing about the rave days.
Yeah.
And how did it feel when Rob released "Be a Boy" as a single?
Great. I mean,
it was amazing. I remember, yeah, we went out for those 302 shows, and it was he gave us a little shout out, and it's kind of the first time we had heard one of the songs being played in such a huge place. It was pretty it was wild. Yeah, it's great.
I get off more on the tracks being played like live, seeing them live, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
These days, like everything being digital, like a single, like it's muddied, right? It's like and we can talk about even with Lufthaus, it's kind of like every track release, it's like the way people consume it, it's almost better to do like track, you know? So I think that the biggest excitement was seeing like gospel, not like the others and Be a Boy live. That was the biggest thrill, apart from obviously the album coming out. Because that was a really special tour. I think the Take the Crown tour. I think
it was.
They all have unique, exciting things about them. But I think Take the Crown was an especially epic stage production. The outdoor stadium shows. Tim and I also went to Estonia for the Independence Day show. And that was special. And then we saw some select stadium shows. And when you see songs that you wrote come on in the stadiums, it's like, wow, that's really
that was the most overwhelming, I think. Yeah, that was like really like, whoa. Okay.
That's more exciting for me than a single. It's seeing live each night.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was referring to when you said Be a Boy. I thought you meant the live, when it was the songs were played live. That was definitely, you know, really like, wow, this is real.
I particularly remember Not Like the Others on the stadium tour. Just thought it sounded amazing. Yeah, really stood out as a moment.
Yeah, it was, well, just epic production. Really good. So Rob sort of often says that Into the Silence is the song he's most proud of, and it's the song for the hardcore fans, just to let you know. It's on 3 different albums. How do you feel about it, and what's the song you're each most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I love Into the Silence. I think it's one of the best songs we've written together. I think like lyrically and musically it's incredible, and then live it's incredible.
When karma reaches you, I want to be there to catch that fall.
I think that I think Into the Silence is amazing. You guys should tell Rob to dust it off for whatever the next tour is, because I think it's such a great track.
Yeah.
And it obviously means a lot to him and the fans. So I think it's been incredible to be part of that, and to mean that to the fans, and also to have for Rob to say it's one of his favorite songs he's done, to be part of that, especially when he's written so many great
Yeah.
songs. It's great to have that special place in his heart too, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were in LA not that long ago, but like not in the past year, but we were working on Lufthaus stuff at Rob's, and he was kind of like, we were doing dance music and whatnot, and then he was like, guys, come downstairs, I've got a surprise for you, and we were like, what? And he put on the orchestral version from the latest album, and he didn't tell us he was doing it or nothing or anything like that. And yeah, I remember it was pretty cool being like, wow, this is awesome, because it's obviously like, yeah, it's all of our favorite songs. I think it's my dad's favorite song as well of what we've done. So it was really nice for him to like keep it a bit of a secret and then just play it to us in the studio. It's a nice moment.
Yeah, I love that.
Motherfucker's a really good song too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Tim and I performed that with Rob
Amazing.
around 2015. I think we did a few shows, and and acoustically it's really good too, you know.
Yeah.
I think acoustically is the real,
Yeah.
the truest version of the track,
Right.
because you really like hear that story, and I think it's a really good song, Motherfucker. I love Not Like the Others too.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Not Like the Others. I really like Gospel.
Yeah.
And then I really like Green Light. I mean, I'm just looking at the songs on Under the Radar.
HES.
Surrender was always a big one for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was the lyric. I think the lyric might have changed. The lyric. Oh yeah, HES was also great. Yeah. Yeah. Surrender for me was a good one. I think that might have changed. It might be called No Surrender now, or is it called Surrender? I'm not too sure. But
Yeah, it's called Surrender. Yeah.
HES is one of my favorites for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a really, really good song. And I think live, it's really good. You guys are at the Roundhouse, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was amazing.
That was
incredible.
Run It Wild's a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, there's a lot of good ones in there.
So many. I have to say that
we love the Under the Radar, so
yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but yeah.
And going back to Gospel, I have to say I think that's one of my favourite outros of a Robbie song. The way that ends, I just absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
that was a good moment live, wasn't it? When the thing came up, and it was like,
yeah,
yeah.
I think Rob should have a little Under the Radar segment in his songs where he, out on his tour, when maybe he plays like one or two of them,
Yeah. Oh, we'd love that.
Night in whatever format.
We keep trying to encourage him to do that kind of thing, but he's
don't give up. Just keep.
Well, Rob probably better than we do, but he is always nervous to play a song that doesn't lift the crowd or create the energy in the general sort of population of the crowd, not just for the hardcore fans. So I think he'd love to do it, but he's just nervous about how it might go down. But we'd love to hear it. I'm sure it would work.
He could easily do what Taylor Swift does and just do like one song each night and change it each night. That would be amazing.
I remember doing the Motherfucker. I think we were in Paris or somewhere, and we would stop, and then he'd be like, "You're a bad motherfucker," and like then the whole crowd would sing it back. And I remember after I was like, "Oh my god, everyone knew the song. That was so amazing. Like, they all know it." And he's like, "No, Tim, the first 10 rows knew it. No one else knew this." I was humbled. I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, the first 10 rows can be quite loud.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So one of our listeners, Chris Lamble, says that Be a Boy is his favourite Robbie song, and he loved the remix you played on tour last year. Do you have any plans to release it? Have you, or would you remix other Robbie songs?
It's funny. Flynn and I were having this conversation earlier, so I'll let Flynn answer the question.
Okay.
Well, if I'm gonna be honest, I, I love the track, right? I love the didn't love the remix. Like
Oh, okay.
Tim made the full disclosure. Tim made the remix.
Yeah, it's on me. It's on
No,
me.
but it comes down,
But I'll take
and
the comment from the
I think
listener.
it's great. People love it. Like I'm not saying it's just a personal thing. And as the Lufthaus shows kept going on, right, we felt that we wanted to focus more on new material. Like we do and would and will remix, like, you know, other Robbie snippets. I think, like, especially um if we perform as Lufthaus, I think it would be exciting to have some snippets of a house version of, you know, Love Light, Rock DJ, like
Yeah.
get even some acapellas, if you know, getting access to some of those vocal stems and creating innovative, fresh things is something we love.
Yeah.
So I think Tim's remix is amazing of Be a Boy. I just didn't personally love it, and I thought as we would continue to perform that we should focus more on the look, because it's hard to bridge the. I mean, this is a whole other hour, but playing a live set, I think we balanced it well. Once we got to Europe, we had the mix of the DJing, the mix of the live performance, and I think it was a good balance. And I think having the Be a Boy track in there was just one too many of that, you know, of that style of. We want to focus more on the future, you know, of what we were doing, the Lufthaus record, playing those songs, road testing those songs.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could easily release the remix. If, we can just send it to that guy. Give me his you know, it's
Have a
full
man.
listening pleasure.
There we go, Chris.
Okay, I'll send you his email address.
Like, quite dramatically, I said to Tim, I'm like, Tim, I want you to bury the USB with that remix.
Actually going to bury it. We actually have, we're going to have a ceremony for it after England. But yeah, definitely some other stuff in the same ilk in the cards for future shows in the works. I can
Great.
confirm.
Excellent.
Good.
So, Flynn, Rob initially listed Run It Wild as a track that would appear on Under the Radar 1, but then it appeared on Under the Radar 2. And I believe you wanted it for your own record. Is that what happened? And then
I can't recall exactly. I think that at the time there was a lot of songs floating around. I think Under the Radar, I mean, I think Run It Wild was even earmarked for Take the Crown. But we did have about 20, 25 tracks for Take the Crown. And then I think it may have even been earmarked for Heavy Entertainment Show at a point in time. But there were songs at the time that we were considering releasing by ourselves. But I think, it found a home on Under the Radar Volume 2.
Right.
Cool. And Tim, you had a bit of a personal campaign to get Rob to play HES on the Let Me Entertain You tour. Apparently you were planning on playing HES and Motherfucker together in Barcelona, but during rehearsal, Rob kept screwing up the lyrics and decided he didn't want to do HES that night. So he asked you to come on and sing Angels instead. You finally played...
Where do you get this information?
Research.
Where do you...
Very. We've got a very good researcher here.
yeah. Wow.
Apparently, you finally played HES and Motherfucker with Rob in Paris instead. So how good was that? It's a long question.
Yeah, it was amazing. I went to Barcelona. I think was it? Where did we do it? Sorry, with the Angels. Was that Barcelona?
Barcelona.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I went to Madrid. And we were staying in Barcelona, and I think my family and stuff, we were like on a trip, and we had kind of made it around the tour because we knew I was playing. And we went to that arena in Madrid, and we sound checked it, and the place was huge. And Rob was just like, he's like, this place is too big. I don't want to. He was just like, he couldn't remember the words or something. The stories, that's absolutely correct. And so then he's like, just come and do Angels. And I was like, okay, better learn how to play that then. So I had a couple of hours to learn how to do that. And then I think I actually he didn't really know what was going on. No one really knew what was going on, but I think I ran across the stage and might have tapped him on the bum, and he was thought it was someone about to push him off the stage or something. He said it gave him the shock of his life. So it was quite funny.
So I think he
But
forgot
yeah,
that he'd asked you to come on.
Yeah, I think he had, yeah. And so when I kind of snuck up and came behind him, his heart stopped in the end of the first verse of Angels or whenever it was. But yeah, that was a fun time.
And then when you did get to Paris, you did get to play HES, the motherfucker.
Yes. Yeah, it was great. I mean, that was when I was saying I was probably in my own running off adrenaline and in my own world when I was like, oh, they all loved it. You know, everyone knew it. And that was when he was like, no, Tim, it was just the front two rows. But we did a few shows and then we kept playing that. I think like we did Australia with Flynn as well.
Yeah.
Which you could say were the first Lufthaus shows.
So all three of you on stage together.
Yeah, which was a lot of fun.
And then Flynn, you obviously sung "Run It Wild" with and "Reverse" with Rob at the Under the Radar gig. Did you love that gig as much as we did?
Yeah, I think it was really good. I think it was a really good night. I think it was good because everyone in the house was a massive fan, and you probably like it was a one-off, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that makes it even more special. I think it was did Rob say it was one of his favorite shows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was just, there was a lot of really good positive vibes in the house. Everyone really loved it. And it was special because it was a one-off gig, you know?
Yeah.
And a lot of the songs he played were written with you that night. 9 out of 21 of the songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good times.
There was a special energy in there. I think he found it very freeing, and I loved what he said at the beginning. You know, like if someone's dragged you along to this gig expecting you're going to hear "Let Me Entertain You" and Angels, you're not. So if you want to leave now, then I'm not going to be offended. And he just literally paused and literally waited for people. Nobody got up. Nobody left at it. No. I think everyone knew what they were in for.
But yeah, Raver was a particular highlight that night. I think it really went down.
Yeah.
I've just seen some videos of it, but it looks great.
Yeah. It's unfortunate you weren't there, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know where I was, but I was very jealous to miss it.
Yeah.
It's the kind of gig that we'd like to go to more often. So hopefully, we're hoping it's not a one-off. But you know, Rob keeps saying he might do another one at some point. But
maybe we dust him off at a Lufthaus show, and we just Rob
like guitars. And we're like, sorry to interrupt this show, but now we're going to do.
Yeah. Perfect. That'd be great.
Delve into our back catalogue.
And you sometimes write with other collaborators on Rob's songs, so people like Philip Steinke, Piers Barron, Conrad Olsen. How do they fit into the picture for you?
I think they've come in from like a musical arrangement perspective.
Yeah.
Or just friends. You know.
Yeah. Sometimes it's us like working with other musicians friends that we love and admire. And then sometimes you might be like, oh, what do you think? Is there a bridge here? Are there some changes here? And just you know, when you're preparing for a session or a sprint, you know, a writing sprint, you might bring in some other talented musicians to help you.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you may have co-conceived it together, you know, in the past for not that purpose. So
right.
Break your legs if you mistreat her. If you lay one finger on her, oh, you're a goner, oh, you're a goner. He's got a driver, his name's Tony. He's there to make sure she goes home lonely. He likes to inflict pain real slowly. She will be nobody's trophy.
And then we've also noted when reviewing all of Rob's songs track by track on the podcast that often your bridges in the songs that you've written really stand out and are like some of our favourite bits in the song. Is that due to your backing track or like Rob's melodies or like all of you together? What makes
our talent?
Yeah.
And our superb songwriting ability. Their emotion. And no, I think it's good. Changes are good. You know, I mean, some songs there are none, some songs there are. And I think it's just, you don't know what is going to hit, you know, you don't know what is going to connect. because it's about also it connecting with Rob when we're writing with Rob, right?
Yeah.
You need it to make sense for him. You need him to be excited. You want him to be passionate about it. But the best songs are the ones that bring out the best out of Rob too, you know?
Mhm.
So it's just about providing a framework. Sometimes you come in with a really strong idea, like a melody, a lyric, the track. Other times it's just the track, and then Rob will, add his magic to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got quite a few songs featured on the Christmas present. Did you purposely write those for the Christmas present, or were some of them kind of written as music and then Rob just happened to add Christmas lyrics to them?
I think it was a time we were in. I mean, I can't. What year was this again?
So it came out in 2019.
I think whenever Rob was writing an album, we would come up with a bunch of ideas. So they were definitely probably written in a Christmas theme with a
Right.
Christmas time, the arrangement.
Yeah.
They were definitely songs that we were trying to get on the album.
Yeah, I used to we're in LA at Rob's house. I used to work out of his studio in his house, so I was there like all the time. So I think, and I'm not sure, it wasn't like a specific thing, but I think I might have done one song on that album, or one or two. But he just kind of came down and was like, I need this song for this, like let's do it. So it was definitely from scratch, like it was nothing planned.
Mhm.
Maybe some of the stuff that Flynn and I did together, or Flynn did with, might have been, yeah. But I think that I can't remember what's not Christmas. I did with Carl Brazil. Yeah, that one. There was just kind of, we just did it from start to finish in an afternoon.
Right. Okay. Yeah, there's quite a few songs on that album. We've got One Last Christmas, Idlewild, Happy Birthday, Jesus Christ.
Sorry, Idlewild. Maybe that was,
Yeah.
I can't even remember. I should have done more research
Oh
before.
yeah,
this,
that was
sorry.
with Carl. Yeah.
Yeah,
Idlewild,
Idlewild
yeah.
was the one that you did.
That's
with
the one.
Carl.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Snowflakes. That's a good song.
Mhm.
Like that.
And obviously, we've just talked about Christmas, but just in general, do you have a particular approach to your songwriting and musical development? Is there a particular sort of way in which you go about developing new material?
No, not really. I mean, I know that's a boring answer. I don't really have an approach.
Yeah.
Like sometimes melodic ideas come to you that are strong,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of the time when we're working with electronic music, the music comes first,
Right.
99% of the time, because you create this beat, you create an atmosphere, and then you come up with some top line. So
Mhm.
usually with electronic, 99% of the time be music first.
Yeah.
The other thing with the songs, with the Robbie Williams, it'd be probably 50-50. It'd probably musical vibe, and then a lyric. But then it would other times be hook, and then the bass around the hook. But for Lufthaus, it's 99%, I'd say, music first.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
Love is a dagger in the killing fields. How does it feel when you make me bleed? No heart should.
So moving on to Lufthaus, what made you both decide to move into electronic dance music?
Well, Flynn was living in Berlin. I was living in Los Angeles, and we kind of we're both kind of doing we'd both obviously done lots of pop music and stuff like that, and it just seemed really exciting. It seemed like the industry was kind of popping off, and it was something that we hadn't really touched on. Whereas it had obviously blown up in 2008, 9, worldwide, but in the commercial aspect of it. But so we just found it exciting. I was going to move to Berlin. And we just started working on a bunch of like techno ideas. I think I spent a summer out there in 2019, I think it was, before COVID, with Flynn, and we just kind of really got engrossed in the whole industry and everything about it. We just like kind of loved it. And then of course COVID happened, so I moved back to Australia, and think Flynn stayed in Berlin, or he came back to Australia for a bit, but that was kind of how the Lufthaus connection came about, because Rob was like, what are you guys up to? Like, what are you working on? And we were like, well, we're doing electronic music. This is what we want to do now. And he was like, well, can I do it too? Can't see why that would.
There was, Tim and I, our new project was going to be an electronic project. And then I recall I was in Melbourne. Oh yeah, I'd flown back from Berlin, and it was March 2020. I'd flown from like the 1st to the 20th to see my family, see my mum and dad. And Tim was in LA, and Rob was due to play the Grand Prix.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right. And I was in his hotel room with my laptop and some monitors. And that's when I began to play him what Tim and I were working on.
Right.
Right. So there were some songs there. All of them have survived. I can't recall which ones are on the album, but they all survived. They're all recorded. They're all finished. So in the hotel room, and then Rob got the call that the Grand Prix had been cancelled. So this is like the eve of, would have been like 16th, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I got stuck in Australia till July or June.
Oh no.
And then I think Tim returned. I think we did my birthday, and it was April. Yeah, you came back shortly thereafter, Tim. And then in that time, we began really actively writing the project. We didn't have a name at the time.
Or necessarily style.
Then I went and saw Rob. I flew to Rob, and we continued to record and write the album. And we did stuff over Zoom. We did voice notes. I think some of the voice notes he recorded on his phone actually ended up on the album.
That's mad.
So we banked 25 tracks off that session. And then we flew out, Tim and I again, and we banked like another 5 or 6. So there's another album that's finished.
Wow.
And some of the songs are, just as good, if not better, because we've learned a lot too from the recording process and from performing it live.
Yeah.
And then I've also plans to resume writing with Rob to bank another, bunch of creative ideas too. And I think the Lufthaus project, it was different to his album, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're writing a Robbie Williams album, it's an amazing experience. But I also think, like, for Rob, it's probably more challenging. I think he said that too. I think it's like, because you're not just weighing the track, it's against all your other songs, and it's against how it fits on the record and the track order. And then you think about taking it to radio and the singles, and he's had, 15 number ones albums, and there's a lot. I mean, he writes for pleasure, and he writes because he's incredibly good at it. But then there's also that voice in the back of your mind going, I want to write, I want to single on radio, I want to write the number one album, and all these things. And I think the Lufthaus project, it takes all the walls down, because obviously we want commercial success. We want people to love the music, we want people to dance to it, but we're not thinking about, like, oh, is this going to land with, Radio 1 or Radio 2? What's the opening week going to be? It's more, that's an idea, that's a mood, that's a vibe. And then that for Tim and I gives us freedom. And then for Rob, it gives freedom. So it's kind of this like protection aura around the project, because you're not bound by the enormity of legacy, right? You are free to create, to have fun, and to try things, right? Try, and if you miss, you're not missing. You've explored a as Tim said, in the motion of feeling, it was a quote from the album, but like these kind of things like that I think keeps it fresh and fun for Rob
Right.
too, as well as us, because we've done and had amazing fun writing the Robbie Williams songs.
Yeah.
But now you kind of step into this different thing where there's a pressure on yourself to create something amazing, but there's not the pressure from the outside to try to land that single, to try and land the number one, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a freedom in that, which we all love, you know.
And we could sense and feel his passion for EDM because
Yeah.
in the chat room and on some of his Insta lives, he used to mention it every now and again. You know, I really love to make an EDM album. So obviously that must have been in the early days when he was probably talking to you about it, and he was
Yeah.
you could just see the spark in his eyes, you know, when
Yeah.
he said it, and then he didn't want to say much more, but he would keep saying it every now and again when I'd love to do that. So yeah, really, really cool that it's come to life.
Yeah.
And then it travel like that music kind of travels like electronic music. You can have it on to dance to, you can have it on to chill. Like it's got a kind of lightness to it, you know, because it can be played and shared with at parties or and I think it's refreshing for Rob to inhabit the character of someone in an electronic music group, because then it's obviously there's always going to be huge focus on Rob, but then there's also like, you know, as we saw on the tour, me singing some songs and us, Tim and I, you know, DJing, and it's not always performance. It's not always like vocal. There's always that moment when you pull back and it's people are happy in electronic music when you to listen to a 9-minute track, you know, and it doesn't have to be stuff happening all the time.
Yeah.
I think is very exciting, and also it's a different format to explore. And then Rob has, as you mentioned, this huge past in house. What was it? The club in Manchester, from 24 Hour Party People. What was it? That
Oh, I can't remember what that's called.
Hacienda was it?
Hacienda.
Oh, Hacienda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mythology around this.
Yeah.
It was this dance music culture is and was a huge part of Rob's upbringing.
Yeah.
And at the time when Take That was taking off in the late 80s, early 90s, I think his musical taste was hugely in line with that sound, those groups and those cuts, those records. So it's kind of like a full circle thing too, because it's Rob also going back to his taste, his love of dance, the escapism of dance music, because dance music is very anonymous too when you're on a dance floor, the anonymity, like anthems are shared moments, you know, whereas the dance music it's anonymous but shared too, you know. So you're sharing it, but there's this it's a different thing, right? Which I think Rob is drawn to also.
And speaking of anonymous, was it Rob's idea to keep his identity hidden at first?
I can't really remember. I might have been the record label's idea.
Right.
I think we wanted to seed it as something organic at the beginning, because it's like on the time scale it was always going to come out, right? So it's nice to kind of keep things under wraps at the beginning, because we see Lufthaus as, you know, we're going to keep making music, we're going to keep refining the live show. It will probably take on many different forms, you know. There may be Lufthaus shows where it's just Tim and I DJing, or we've got I'm singing a track. There'll be shows with Rob as a focus piece too. And because we see it as like having different forms and a project that we're going to invest in over many years and keep growing, having Rob as a secret vocalist for the first 3 months, it's like, it's nothing in the time scale, right?
Yeah, right.
I think it just lended some weight, that this is something that we're all taking seriously, and we didn't want to necessarily come out and say like, you know, Robbie Williams' new dance project from the beginning.
Right.
Because we were thinking of it on such a long time scale, we'd introduce it slowly, and that way it's a campaign that, you know, would gradually reveal itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who came up with the name?
Was it you, Flynn?
I think it was me.
I think
it was me or Rob. I think like I think we liked some of the German language is rich for names and languages, right? Like for brand and Lufthaus is such a great. It's such a great name. We're surprised it wasn't taken, and it's so hard to name a band, guys. Like I can't tell you naming a band because 99% of it's taken.
Yeah.
To find two things that are like instantly recognized, because Luft is familiar, right? It like you see it, especially if you're living in Europe, it's like everywhere. And House obviously is quite familiar too. So to combine them, it was very strong, and I think it's something that sounds like it's always been there too. You know, so we were quite happy when we found out we could use the name. I think Rob mentioned something Luft, and there was a house thing, and it came together.
Right.
Yeah.
So you produced all the songs as well. There wasn't any other producers involved, is there?
No. Well, we used one of Tim's Dashpot. Did some additional.
Oh, okay.
Across the tracks.
Yeah. Another guy, Ryan, we've been working with on the next album. Yeah, we do. We you know.
But mainly it's Tim and myself.
Yeah.
Right. And how did you secure Sophie Ellis-Bextor for Immortal, which I absolutely love, by the way?
Rob did that. That was Rob's magic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about how it came about, but I remember I think he emailed the track to her, and she came back with this amazing hook, and I think it's just all time. That hook is so good.
Yeah.
The two of them on that track, like I think it's
The contrast of their vocals is just amazing. Really incredible.
Yeah, we had to do a few versions of that song. The version that she wrote to is not anywhere near the version that it is today.
Okay.
Like it was very much in its embryonic stage, and then she'd done this huge thing, and it obviously had that great piano line, but we were kind of like, we need to bring this up to the level that she kind of elevated the track, and then we're like, all right. So we went back maybe 2 or 3 times, I think, Flynn, and we were just like, no, this isn't good enough. So we really put a lot into that track to try and get it, and that was probably the last song that was finished on the album, and one of the earliest songs that was written on the album, but the last song to be finished, because we just kind of were like, we need to.
Right.
And I think Sophie's voice is one of the best recorded voices. This is like a producer engineer thing. I think she's got one of the best recorded voices like on earth. And Tim and I obviously grew up, and those songs like if you know what was it?
If love ain't true,
Murder on the Dance Floor.
Murder on the Dance Floor, yeah.
So all these, so it's amazing to have someone as talented as Sophie, and who's been around and had success over so many years to be part of the project. So we feel very fortunate and very thankful to her for lending her beautiful voice and songwriting skills to the track.
Yeah.
Absolutely iconic.
Hey,
Brilliant.
Sophie.
She don't stand at all. She don't really mess with alcohol. She don't stand at all. She don't really mess with alcohol.
Why was the lyric in Alcohol changed from she'd only fuck with alcohol to mess with alcohol?
Because there was a demo that Rob played on Instagram Live where
I
he
just think
sung
the
fuck
fact
with alcohol.
We're family men.
I'm gonna better play at home.
I think it's
much.
fuck's good, but it's nice. Mess is great,
Yeah.
And I think he says, does he say fuck on the record?
There is, on another song.
Did he say it at all on the track?
Not on
Not on that one.
alcohol. No.
There's one explicit, isn't there?
I like fuck, but we've used a lot of fuck.
What song is there an explicit on? Because Flynn usually vetoes very quickly.
I'm the conservative member of Lufthaus. Like I'm like, oh, you changed that fucking to a
Mason's daughter has an explicit listing on Spotify anyway. So
Yeah,
that's
got
the only
fucking it.
one with an explicit.
I think he says shit in that. That's it.
No, it says fuck.
Oh, fucking around. Oh.
Oh, it got through, Flynn.
I like fuck as a term in the song, but I think the mess, I think it just phonetically, like, she didn't really mess. It's just kind of like it was just kind of grooved a bit more, you know?
Okay.
Or a song.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like Rob would never do anything he didn't want to do. So obviously the mess resonates with him too.
Yeah.
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 And I mean, you've already alluded to this, so thank you. But Rob said there's 30 to 40 Lufthaus songs written already, and you've released 10 so far. We've heard Cobra, Spirit the Ghost, and Where We Come From on Rob's Insta Lives.
Or when you've played
hopefully
them.
we're not getting him into trouble by telling them that.
No, you've played them at Spirit
Yeah,
Ghost as well,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. So will some of these maybe appear on Volume 2?
I think there's
I'd hope so.
a pretty
I'd
hot
hope
chance
so.
they
A
will.
high chance.
Because
There
I
you
really
go.
like Cobra.
We're reworking it. Like, once again, it wasn't what was best. It was just what made the album. Sometimes like the best songs are left off and they come out in another format.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim and I are working at the moment. I think Tim just did a rework of Cobra. We've finished Spirit the Ghost. That will come out on album 2.
Right.
Cool.
It's just about
We've
like
played that throughout all of Asia, Europe.
Where Do We Come From will come out on album 2. It's an amazing
Okay.
track. It's just about structuring it in single releases too, because we had like a format, Sway to the Light, Soul Seekers and Unlovable are like a family of tracks, right? They're very similar sonically.
Yeah.
So if you just put out Cobra, then it would be too different, I think, from a running order.
Yeah.
But those songs will definitely see the light of day. They're amazing songs. And I think, yeah, the fans will love to have the recorded versions.
Yeah.
Great news.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
So how important are the live performance visuals? We noticed you can't fail to notice how much the visuals are a part of your show, and also the record sleeve artwork for Lufthaus. I'm assuming that's part of the whole project, yeah?
The art was done by Rob, all of it, and Ed Godrich,
Yeah.
right? The very talented Ed Godrich, as I said
Yeah.
the night before the digital collectible came up. So Tim and I have been really close to Rob's artwork. Rob and Ed's, we've seen a lot of it. They've done like mind-blowing stuff. Like the volume, it's incredible, but they've been prolific. So Rob is an insanely talented artist, you know, and I think, you know, he creates so much, like he creates so much music, so much art. We thought it'd be great to get this personal touch involved in the visuals and the album covers. And I think it's amazing. Like, I think it's great that he and Ed have lended their skills to making the Lufthaus visuals. And I think like it works so well in the arena, like the dark arena, having these big visuals up with the art.
Definitely.
Love is something that I knew. Love is a paler shade of blue, and I fall down on my own, and I
cool thing. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have been able to use their creations to make the Lufthaus visuals all that more impressive.
Yeah.
And it's an instantly recognizable style and brand now. It just even though the images are quite abstract and quite different, there's you just know Lufthaus.
Exactly.
We also noticed lots of little details in the album cover. Like it looks like it says Tim in one of the faces. Have you noticed that?
I haven't.
We had the
You know-
microscope out. We were looking at it in detail.
Well, no, we had it
just
on the
to see
big
if there was
telly,
any
so-
hidden messages on there.
You didn't draw any of it yourselves at all then? It's literally just Rob and Ed.
I personally haven't. I'm not sure
No.
about Flynn. I think it's
No,
mostly
but
just Ed and
Rob
Rob.
did love, like, on some canvases we would contribute like some swirls and such,
Oh,
but
yeah.
and some dots. Like he was very good. He was really good about having like his friends, participate and contribute in the making of some of the canvases. But these ones were all by Ed and Rob.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you prefer doing pop Robbie or Lufthaus Robbie? Do you still write pop songs together? That's a tough question to ask you, isn't it? I know that.
We have to say Lufthaus, right?
Yeah.
Let's stay true
Yeah,
to the brand.
I think, yeah, look, just for the reasons I said before, like we've
Yeah.
had amazing, personal success with writing great songs with Robbie Williams for Robbie Williams.
Yeah.
And we will always be on call to collaborate with him on anything he wants to collaborate on. But having the Lufthaus banner, I think is a freedom for all of us that we perhaps didn't have when trying to write the traditional tracks. And as a writer, you kind of evolve and your interests change over time too. And I think having the Lufthaus project provides us with more of that personal creative freedom to have fun and to throw around different electronic moods and ideas that are probably personally more fulfilling for Tim and myself.
Yeah. And what's it been like supporting Rob on tour? Have you got any favourite gigs?
It's been great. The one in Croatia in Pula.
Oh,
was it
yeah.
Pula?
Pula, yeah.
That was pretty special show in that Coliseum, and one of the best shows was in was it Frankfurt, Flynn, where I think the arena basically didn't have, it had seating, but it was kind of first in, first serve. So
Oh.
everyone, it was just absolutely packed. By the time we even came on stage, everyone was just like drinking and raring to go, and they were just, people going wild. So those two for me really stood out, I think. But Flynn,
Pula was the best for us, for me, yeah, because it was the Coliseum and the crowd was just being in such a historical place with so much history, and the crowd were really into it. Like the footage, I think it's on our Instagram, they were really engaged. All the German shows were really good. Like all of them were, like even in like Munich, like when Rob did that 100,000 people gig in 2021, like 2022. We did 10 shows in Germany in this arena, and that, like Hamburg, Cologne, like they were all really good. Frankfurt was especially good because, as Tim mentioned, the venue was beautiful, but the Germans really got around it. I think the last 2 nights in Amsterdam were really good too, if I recall, Tim. Like that was a really good feedback.
And I think as like the year progressed, and like the music kind of like became more familiar to maybe the fans, that kind of helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
And Paris was really good too. Paris was really strong. If I recall correctly. And then, yeah, there were some really, really good shows. I think we have footage from every show. We have like lots of photos, so I'd have to revisit it to give you the definitive take. And then Bologna night 1 was really good too. Night 1 and 2, Tim. The opening was really good. Right?
Yeah.
The Italians were really, really great crowd. Yeah.
And you also played some after parties in small venues in a few cities when you were on tour. How does it compare playing those smaller gigs to huge stadiums like Munich or Port Vale, for instance?
I think it's all fun. It's all kind of part of it. Like, you know, what we play on the stage, you know, if it's in like a stadium or if it's in an arena or if it's in a club, it's like it's quite different. So I think that kind of keeps it fresh and exciting for us. You know, and then also that depends on the club. Like I think in Barcelona it was like a different type of place till we played this kind of techno club in the middle of nowhere in Belgium, I remember. And that was like, you know, so then that's like a kind of completely different set from the club in Barcelona. So it kind of keeps it fresh, which I think keeps it exciting, which keeps it fun, you know?
And Rob said he found the Ibiza performances into 2022 a little bit awkward because everyone was expecting him to entertain. Do you think he will appear with you somewhere again?
Oh, I think it was, you know, it was the first show for all of us, and we hadn't done anything. We hadn't really, you know, so I think that's only natural. But I definitely think there'll be some stuff coming up in the future.
I think it was unannounced. His involvement was unannounced, and
Yeah.
the range of it happened. I believe Rob was there in Ibiza at the time, and I believe the shows came together very quickly, and there were three very different venues, right? So there was no consistency. There was the night venue, a small club, and then a daytime club.
Yeah.
And we kind of went all in the deep end, right? Like there was no rehearsal, there was no announcement at the time about Lufthaus.
Yeah.
It was just kind
I
of
don't think we even had music release, right?
we did, but there was no involvement of. I don't think Rob was involved.
It wasn't officially announced at that point, no.
It was very like bang. And then obviously when you're having vocals in an electronic performance, there's certain considerations that need to be had. So I think that the shows were really fun to do, but if we were doing planning stuff in the future, we would spend definitely a lot more time
Right.
in relationship to planning the show for the venue, for the crowd, etc. But this was kind of like a just go for it, go in the deep end, and I think for Rob, it's always that that fun challenge because you're used to entertaining so well, right? Like he's the best entertainer, and then if you haven't coordinated what you're not doing in between the singing, you just don't know what to do with your hands. So you just like like what kind of like, oh, should I go over here? Should I say this? But when we do return to the live stage as a trio, I think it's going to be a really, really special, really amazing experience.
Cool.
So I'd recommend getting there. If and when that those shows are announced, I would get there because
we'll get there.
We'll get there.
we're really going to take our time with this one. So yeah.
Guest list.
Yeah.
We'll be there. Didn't Rob say on the interview with us, didn't he say that there was a point where he Googled what the DJs say?
Yeah.
Because he wanted some things to be able to say on stage that sounded cool. And
Yeah.
that was fun. I'm sure he sounded cool. He was dust. So. And so what happened to Rob's idea of opening an art gallery that has a DJ set in the evening in Berlin? Is that something that's still on the boil?
I think everything's open. I think it's just like you can't. I just get confused with the years. Like he has so many amazing projects that are upcoming. I think like he's got, and he's one of the people that he talks about stuff and does it. So I mean, he's got the Netflix documentary. He's got a movie. He's got the art. He's got so many things, and he's just done. I mean, you guys would know this more than me, but has this been the most shows he's ever played in a year?
Yeah, he's doing 85 dates on this tour. So
this tour.
Yeah.
So it's about planning, passion, and patience with these things, and that these ideas, I'm sure, will have the light of day, like the time in the daylight. It's just about deciding the right time to do it, the right context to do it. But we definitely have a lot of exciting things planned for Lufthaus beyond. I mean, we ended the tour in Australia. We have 10 shows there, and then we're, you know, Tim and I are already focused on album 2.
Yeah.
We're focused on playing live. We're focused on a live show. We're focused on working Rob into the live show.
Yeah.
We're focused on reworking some of his tracks into the live show too. So I think that'll
Right.
be, yeah.
Soul seekers, seekers of light, staring at the black night satellite, out of the chaos, out of control.
I think you might have said this through the interview, but what's the best thing about working with Rob?
I think it's the
Tim?
energy and the positivity.
Mhm.
His talent. Like I think people don't. I think people would be not shocked, but blown away, I think is the term, by how talented he is. So he has an uncanny ability to turn on the tap and pour out amazing ideas, you know?
Mm.
Something
And I
out of
think
nothing
that-
too. Like,
yeah. And I think Rob is also like, he's also good at a lot of things. Like he's also quite athletic. I remember that Tim and I were doing this. I think we're in LA, and I think Rob could do the most push-ups and the most, like, a whole plank for the longest. And then he does like the art, like he's got the fashion, he's got so many things that he's good at. And I think when you're working with someone that is very good, it elevates you to be very good, or to
Yeah.
aspire to be better. So
Yeah.
I think the best thing is, like, obviously the friendship, the relationship, the love, the respect. But then, like, when you're going in, you don't know what you're going to get, but you know it's going to be good. You know, it might not ever come out, but you're never going to go away from that going like, oh, you know, that was underwhelming. It's always very, very exciting and very, very, very fun.
Yeah, you always come out of it really buzzing from a session, or you come out with something that didn't exist
Yeah.
an hour earlier. How the fuck did that happen? But it does,
Yeah.
and he seems to be constant.
So if you could rewind back to one moment in your career and relive it, what would it be?
I mean, that's like a very big question.
Yeah, it is.
I just feel like I'm so like just looking for. It's always the next thing, you know. I'm always like, what we're going to do next, what the show's going to be, what song, what the, the album,
Yeah.
what's this going to
Yeah.
sound like, how we're going to do this show.
I'd
I just, yeah, my brain doesn't work like that.
No.
I'd
But there's
probably
been amazing times.
Right.
I'd probably choose two things. It'd probably be like, probably the feeling of the first time we met Rob, like, to rewind to that, because that's like before everything, right?
Yeah.
Then I'd probably rewind to, I'd probably like to do Munich again with the show that we have now.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very, couldn't be more different to what we have now.
Mhm.
So probably, like, if we could deliver a full scale production to that crowd, that would have been amazing. That would be amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Or just to build on that, it's like the first show we kind of played, I think there was like 25,000 people in Stoke,
Yeah.
in Port Vale.
Yeah.
And then that was our essentially our second show. It was like 120,000 people.
Yeah.
And obviously, like from then to now, I think we've done 50 arena shows, plus obviously other heaps of other shows. So from where we were then to where it is now, it's like we really threw ourselves in the deep end, and it was like, okay, we we learned on the boards, as
Yeah.
they say. Obviously that's just how it is, and it's been amazing, and it continues to be so.
What would you got, Matt and Lucy? What would you like to see? What are three things you would like to see from Lufthaus?
Oh.
There's another big question.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want from us?
I think, yeah, a gig with Rob, obviously, because you are Lufthaus, the three of you.
Yep.
And so to see him with you,
Yeah.
it does need to be that at some point.
Yeah, and I love the idea, and obviously this is, this idea is the one that's on the book. I love the idea of being in a club, not a super club, like not 15,000 people, but in a reasonably sized club, with the artwork, with the visuals, with the whole theme, the whole Lufthouse theme going on, and you guys and Rob being in that as well. So like a very experiential version of Lufthouse would be, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I can't think of a third at the moment.
Third.
Putting us on the spot. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to see him in Ibiza, really. That's the other thing. But, that I'd
Yeah,
have
we'd
loved to
love
have been
to
at
see
one of
that.
your gigs in Ibiza.
We love the idea. We're like, I mean, I'll tell you like about what I'd love to do, right? Outside the music, we'd love to have, the idea of residencies, right? Where you can walk into a beautiful venue with an amazing production, like build out the show with the venue, build out the lighting design, build out the, the visual effects, and create a really exciting immersive experience that has some singing, some really great music, and you leave, after 2 hours like on a real high, and you see a side of Rob that you haven't seen before. You have that perfect mix of soulful. I've seen some people describe Lufthouse as like soulful electronic music, right?
Yeah.
So you have this emotive element, the uplift, but then you have also the fun and the dancing and that experience too. So I think we want to work towards getting a run of shows that we can collaborate with the venue with closely, plan really well, have a lot of fun, and give people that don't know Rob, blown away by seeing something on this scale before.
Yeah.
Two worlds, the instrumentation and the soulful vocals, and then having some hardcore Rob fans blown away, because it's like you guys are going to obviously continue seeing the tour, support new albums, support shows, but we want to give you something like an experience that you're not going to get there, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something that's really new, something that's really fresh, and I think that will also scratch an itch for a huge amount of the fan base too, but also introduce him to a new generation of people who aren't as familiar, but then can enter as a fan via the Lufthouse portal.
Yeah, and I think people really warm to that. I think what we like seeing is when Rob is part of the experience. Yes, he'll always be kind of a front man and entertainer, but actually, like you said earlier on, the profile is different, the pressure is different. I think when he's in the moment enjoying himself, we know we've known him for such a long time now. We can see, we can feel it, and I think you see that when he's up on stage with you. When we've seen the recordings, he's in a different place, and I think that's cool. That's very different Robbie to the Robbie that we see, leading his shows. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And have you got a favourite Robbie song? So it can be anything. Overall. It doesn't have to be one you've written.
I mean, Flynn and I were both Robbie. Like, we were fans. Like we said, like we lined up for the Close Encounters tour.
We like good music. We like good music.
I'm trying to think what.
I got a top 3.
Okay.
Okay.
In no particular order.
Right.
And they're all really well known songs. Trippin', I love. because it's very unconventional. Like
Yeah.
sonics of it are very unconventional. The verse, it's like it's this very like strange thing sonically. And then the chorus just opens up with all these BVs and him singing that very sweet falsetto. So I really like Tripping. I think it's very sophisticated pop music.
I like Love Light. Love Light's one of my.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
very cool track. Flynn, you go. We'll go back and forth.
I love Kids. I think
Yeah, I was going to say that next.
Kids is
And the production as well. It's
yeah.
flawless.
How hard that song hits,
Mm-hmm.
recorded, and then live is insane. And the lyrics on it are next level. Like the lyrical tapestry of it, and it's kind of like it's that song and then that lyrical tapestry of Let Me Entertain You. The verses, like they're very unconventional lyrics. They're very academic almost. The references, especially in Let Me Entertain You, like talking about effigy and stuff. Like these are vocabularily like, and then I think Rob says like notify your next of kin. Like these are these are things that are very sophisticated lyrically, right? So they really get me. And Feel, obviously, I think Feel is just one of the greatest songs ever written.
Feels like the best track. A deep cut I really liked was from the Swing album, I Will Talk and Hollywood Will Listen.
Oh yeah.
That was like a really cool song. But yeah, I feel like Feel is like that's like it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Couldn't really top that song ballad.
Well, Tim and Flynn, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Visions Volume 1 is out now with 3 new songs that you might not have heard before. It's on all platforms, so go and take a listen to it. And it sounds as though the Lufthaus journey has only just started by what we've heard today. So looking forward to see what you guys have coming next. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Pleasure. See you soon, hopefully.
Cheers.
Robbie Williams Rewind.